beautiful. I just want you to know.
Hey, Donovan, we'll get started with Sarah Todd, Deseret News.
Sounds good.
Hey, Donna, I know that it was a small moment in the game and it probably didn't matter to the larger scheme of things, but when you get a coach's challenge on a play like the one where you strip the ball and you know it's clean, is that vindication? How sweet is that moment? And like the fact that Quin's willing to take that timeout and risk it for that?
I just tried to make the play on the ball, and I told him, I said, you can take it if you want to. If you don't, I think I had like no fouls at that point, so I wasn't too worried about if they were shooting free throws. But it definitely was good to feel like I was right. I knew I hit the ball, but sometimes referees just make mistakes, at the end of the day. But if I guess if it was like a closer situation or a late game, it might have been a different emotion. I might have been a little even more excited, but I think for me, just for all of us, I think when you don't do something and you get that challenge, I think it's definitely a good feeling for sure.
Eric Walden, Salt Lake Tribune.
Don, obviously the priority remains, not losing a big lead, that you guys picked up. But once the advantage gets to a certain point, how does the game shift in terms of, trying to get guys going who are maybe struggling or trying to develop, certain habits or work on certain things as the game goes along?
Yeah, I think, the biggest thing is when you're up by that much, it's tough to stay locked in, and we've been culprits of doing that a few times between this year, last year. We've seen it, I think for us is how do we continue to stay, locked in? And I think the biggest thing is offensively, it is what it is, but I think the biggest thing is the defensive end. There was a stretch where I think it was Mike got back, Royce did, and then I did, 3 mental errors. And I think that's really where our mind has to stay locked in on that point, and it can't happen. And we fixed it. We cleaned it up. Now, don't get me wrong. We had plenty of really good defensive possessions, but, those the little ones, and they're going to happen. But, if we can control those and put an emphasis on it, that way it's still in the forefront of our brains. I think that's something that we really put emphasis on when we're up by, when we have leads like that. And then, as far as guys, shooting out of slumps or whatever, just let it fly, getting guys the ball in situations and letting them attack, not really putting too much pressure on them, I think is the biggest thing.
Kristen Kenny, Jazz TV.
Coach mentioned the amount of work that you put into your craft, the film sessions with Watt. What does that look like, that process, the routine, kind of after like a night like tonight and let's say before you go to Memphis?
Sorry, say that again. Sorry, I zoned out for a quick second. I'm sorry.
Well, Coach was talking about just the amount of work you put into your craft and the film sessions with Jeff Watkinson. I'm just curious what that routine for you looks like after a game like tonight. Are you breaking down film and then before the next one?
Yeah, it's actually it's been a lot of KD or Keon pregame, every game. We're in there just going over different things. For him to come in and not be a first-year coach, coming in there and really teach me things that he's seen, throughout the league and his time. But also for me, I've always been like that in college, watching film. I think film is the biggest way, when you can't necessarily always get the physical reps, when you have a shortened season, when you got to rest your body. I think the mental things of understanding how teams are going to guard me, understanding what's going to be open, manipulating the situations to get anything you want as far as a basket. If you want to get a shot, if you want to get Boy on a shot, if you want to get Mike a shot. And, and it helps when you have not only the coaches, but when you have Mike, Joe, 2 guys who handle the ball, who I look at and ask questions to and just watch. But for me, it's been consistent film work. I'm at the house watching, basketball 24/7. Joe makes fun of me for it, but that's all I do. Even when I'm playing video games, there's always a TV, or something to scream on it or something, whether it's our game or, whoever we're playing, whoever's going to be playing or whoever, just any type of NBA game, just to find habits and just to find ways to better myself and be the best player I can be, which ultimately help the team.
Next up, Ben Anderson, KSLSports.com.
So Donovan, we've talked a lot about your first quarters recently, and over the last 5 games, I think you're a top 5 scorer in the NBA in first quarters. On the other hand, for the season, you're like 72nd in scoring in the fourth, and that's a major flip from last year. Is that good? I mean, do you like that you don't have that much pressure to score late?
Yeah, I think, that's a crazy stat. I didn't know. That's a good one. For me, it's not always about, like I said, my job is to, some nights is go out there and try and score. Sometimes it's, You know, it's impacting the game in different ways. I've had bad shooting nights. I've had nights where I don't have to shoot. But when you have as much shooting as we do, teams start to kind of take the ball out of my hands, and I find guys, you know, trusting my teammates. That's been a big development in my career, and just being able to find those reads. And that goes back into what I was telling Kristen with the film, you know, understanding that, okay, the first 3 quarters are going to go like this, and then this is what's going to happen in the fourth. The game's going to slow down. There's going to be certain situations. I got to be able to find ways to manipulate them to get a shot, a pass, or whatever. Who's going to be open in what situation? Fortunately, this year, we really haven't had many close games. You know, I think that's also been a part of it too, where we haven't had situations where you know, you've seen it through my career where I've had the ball, you know, a bunch, you know, and also on top of that, you got to give credit to the guys we have, whether it's Mike, Joe, Boyan, Rudy, Royce. Like, we got guys out there that can take the pressure off myself, and I have no problem, you know, doing that. And, you know, they trust me just like I trust them. And it's really easy when you just be able to have so many options out there. So I guess you can equate that to that, but I'm not really worried about that, if that makes sense.
Last question, Andy Larson, Salt Lake Tribune.
Don, when you're sitting at the end of the game, kind of watching the fourth quarter, I know you're in kind of supportive teammate mode, but are you kind of like a coach on the sideline there a little bit? Are you watching to see, you know, who's doing well with their minutes, even, you know, in their limited time as young players?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is, how can I help? You know, I think, you know, for me, you know, a guy I've talked to a lot about talked a lot with is Trent. You know, he's a guy that, you know, just kind of teaching them certain angles, certain finishes, certain ways to get people involved, you know. And the biggest way, and my mom being a teacher, she always told me, you know, when you teach someone, when you verbally speak something, you're also helping yourself develop too, you know. So for me, I'm kind of telling them certain situations. So not only am I helping them, but I'm helping, you know, myself as far as seeing the game as well from a different vantage point, you know, and understanding that these guys look to me, and I'm out there just to be a resource, you know, not just to support, but to go out there and just say, hey, this is what you see here. This is what coach wants. This is what coach would like to see here. This is our scheme here, whether it's Trent, JB, Mie, Matt Thomas, George, like whoever it may be, Eli, like they've done a great job. You know, we've been in a few of those situations where they've got a lot of minutes recently. And I'm just doing what was done with me. You know, I give a huge credit to Rodney, you know, Rodney Hood, who did that for me, you know, throughout my whole entire rookie season. And, you know, I'm just trying to, you know, continue to show that, like, I'm here for these guys if they need anything as far as advice throughout the game, but also being able to see things, like I said, that'll help myself, you know, when I get into the game as well.
Thank you, Donovan.